And in today's video, I'm going to be going over 7 things you need to do in order to have effortless weight loss. What is going on YouTube? Welcome to the video. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over 7 things you need to do in order to have effortless weight loss. And look, I get it. Losing weight is hard. If it were easy, you would probably be well on your way to losing weight and achieving all of your goals in your wildest dreams. But it's not easy, not even in the slightest. This is why about 40% of the world is classified as obese, and that number continues to climb year after year. And especially when you combine the difficulty of losing weight with the daily stressors of life, the amount of BS and misinformation that's out there, and the incredibly deliciousness and hyper palatability of modern foods, it feels like the entire world is working against you and there's absolutely no way that you're going to reach your goals. However, lucky for you, part of my job as a fitness coach is to make this thing as simple as possible for you to take action and finally reach your goals so that you can finally succeed and not feel overwhelmed or second guess yourself. So in this video, we are going to be covering exactly 7 ways to make weight loss feel as effortless as possible. But before we dive in, I do want to make this clear. Weight loss is very simple, but simple is not to be confused with the word easy.
Simple maybe, but not easy.
Small difference in word choice and detail, but it makes a huge difference. Now let's dive in. So before we actually dive into the actual 7 tips, here's one thing that I really want to make clear. There's one singular non-negotiable rule that you have to follow if you want to lose weight, and that's being in a calorie deficit. Because if you aren't in a calorie deficit, none of these tips are going to work. And what is a calorie deficit? In simplest terms, a calorie deficit is eating fewer calories than your body burns on a consistent basis. And keep in mind, this is over the consistent basis of days, week, months, and even sometimes years. And now, of course, there are plenty of ways to go about it. You've probably heard of several diets that you can name off the top of your head, but the main thing here is that regardless of what you eat, what diet you follow, a calorie deficit is required and should be the basis of your diet if you want to lose weight.
In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics!
Which means that as long as you are in a calorie deficit, you are going to see weight loss results. And then of course a follow-up question I get is that, oh, so you're saying that I can eat chips and ice cream and chocolate and still lose weight? Yes, absolutely. You can only eat those things and still lose weight as long as you're in a calorie deficit. However, is that something I recommend? No, most likely not. But the main reason I make that point is to really drive home to you that that's literally all it takes, but there are definitely better ways to go about it. And if you don't believe me, there's a very famous article done by a research professor who did a 1200 calorie Twinkie diet. And he ended up actually losing weight and improving his health markers. But if you do decide to go down this route, it will likely be neither sustainable nor enjoyable. And one of the reasons why is because you won't stay very full or satiated. It's the same exact concept as budgeting your finances. Sure, you can spend the majority of your money on eating out or impulsive buys on Amazon Prime, but you're not going to get the most bang for your buck as if you were to spend it on groceries, rent, utilities, and all of the other necessities you need in your life. And the same thing goes for weight loss. There are going to be foods that are better for you in terms of nutritional value, staying full and staying satiated versus other foods. And if you do want to learn more about that, go ahead and check out my last video, how to stay full in a calorie deficit. But the main point that I'm trying to drive home here is that if you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not going to see weight loss.
In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics!
So now that we have that established, let's go ahead and get into these 7 tips. Number 1 is going to be eating 3 meals a day. And as you have probably heard time and time again, people say you need to be eating 3 square meals a day. Personally, I don't really know where this came from, but there is a bit of truth behind it because in my coaching experience, most people who say that they aren't really hungry throughout the day, they don't end up eating 3 meals a day. They either have 1 or 2 large meals or they have 1 or 2 smaller meals and then a bunch of snacks in between those meals and throughout the day. They'll have a really light breakfast with just a coffee and then some sort of pastry that's like a pure carb source. And the next thing you know, lunch rolls around and then they'll have something light again.
Because I'll just have a salad.
Or they'll snack their way through lunch and then have a light meal because they're not hungry. And then by the time dinner rolls around, they get off work, they're done with the daily stressors in life, and next thing you know, they realize that they are super ravenous and super hungry. So what do they do now? They end up eating these huge calorie bomb meals because they never had anything satiating throughout the day. nothing substantial, nothing of really good nutritional value. So they just end up slamming way more calories than they need at dinner when they've already been having these high calorie snacks throughout the day.
Are you swallowing them whole?
And then it's no wonder why people end up gaining weight in a calorie surplus. Meanwhile, they're going, I don't really feel hungry in the morning. I don't really eat that much throughout the day. Why did I gain all this weight? So here's a simple fix. Start eating a substantial breakfast.
Just give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
And yes, I know when I tell a lot of people this, they go, I don't really feel hungry in the morning. How do I force myself to eat? And yes, I totally get it. I'm not saying that you should just immediately slam down a huge breakfast even though you're not hungry. But what I am saying is that you can start slow and just start incorporating a little bit more protein in your breakfast. And it can just be something light, you know, a cup of yogurt, eggs, fruit in the morning. Just start small. You don't have to eat a huge, massive breakfast. And eventually you'll find that your hunger levels will stay a little bit more stabilized throughout the day. But I would say minimum, get a serving of protein in. If you can't find yourself to eat anything, just have a protein shake or something.
A protein shake? You degenerate?
And then a common struggle I hear from a lot of my clients is how much should I be exactly eating? How can I really control my portion sizes? Because portion control is a common struggle that a lot of people face. And then I'm going to go with Jordan Side's recommendation of 3 plates, 2 snacks. So the 3 plates are going to represent the 3 meals that you're going to be having throughout the day. Each meal should fit on a standard size plate, no small snack plates, no large Thanksgiving dinner plates either, just a normal regular sized plate. And each of those meals should fit on your standard size plate. And yes, just one for your meals because remember, we are trying to portion control. And then each of these plates should consist of half of your plate from veggies, a quarter from your protein source, and then the last quarter of it from your carbs and fat sources. And yes, you can include fruits as a part of your vegetables because no one has ever gotten fat from eating fucking fruit. So now that we've gone over relatively how much you should be eating to lose weight, let's go ahead and go into what you should be exactly eating because this is a common follow-up question I get. People will ask, what should I be eating to lose weight? I don't know what to incorporate into my diet.
Want something to eat, but I don't know what.
And I'm going to say honestly, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Eat a bunch of lean protein sources. Have a bunch of produce. Prepare most of your meals. Try to stay away from highly processed foods, you know, super tasty foods like chips, candy, cookies, that kind of stuff. And then of course, if you want more ideas, I'm going to throw up a few graphics from Precision Nutrition of some ideas of protein, carbs, and vegetable sources that you should be incorporating more into your diet. And then of course, if you need more help meal prepping, here's a completely free website. It's called eatthismuch.com. I am not sponsored by this by any means. It's just a tool that I come across that's really helpful in terms of planning your meals, knowing what foods and ingredients to buy and all that. And you can also plug in your preferences into that website. And I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to that website in the description below. But go ahead and check that out. It's awesome. But I guarantee that if you follow these guidelines I've listed above, you are going to see weight loss. And lastly, here's a hack of sorts if you want to guarantee weight loss and guarantee fullness and satiation throughout your day. And that's incorporating at least 1 BAS throughout your day. Now you're probably wondering, what's a BAS? A BAS is a big ass salad. And the reason for this is because salads generally contain a lot of low calorie veggies so that you can eat a ton of it, stay within your calorie deficit, stay full, and stay satiated. And then of course you can top it off with your favorite protein like chicken, steak, fish, etc. But of course, they should go without saying, don't go dousing your salads with a bunch of high calorie dressing like an asshole.
2 shots of vodka.
Sure.
Use a reasonable amount, measure out how much dressing you're using, and keep your calories in check that way. So now that we have your meals covered, let's get into the next tip. Let's talk snacks. And now I know I said early in the video that the main pitfall of a lot of people when they gain weight is because they excessively snack. And yes, I still stand by that. However, the goal here is to not completely cut out snacking, but rather to improve your snacking habits. For a lot of people, it's not because they just have a couple snacks a day. It's because they end up snacking a bunch throughout the day, and this really adds up. Even if your snacks are 100 to 200 calories, if you do this 5+ times a day, that's easily 500 to an extra 1,000 calories a day.
More snacks!
And honestly, this is one of the biggest wake-up calls for my clients when I have them track calories. They realize that these snacks they were having throughout the day added up to the equivalent of a normal sized meal. And then of course, when you have your meals on top of this is going to put you in a calorie surplus, which leads to weight gain. But keep in mind that this doesn't mean you have to cut out snacking entirely, you just have to be a bit more smarter about your snacking decisions. So here are just a few rules I highly recommend in regards to snacking and something that I have found extreme success with my clients. Firstly, it's going to be limit snacking to 2 to 3 times a day. And honestly, most people, even if you are a very snacky person, if you have these beefed up and highly satiating meals, you'll find that you probably only need to snack 2 to 3 times a day. Number 2, the snack should be able to fit into the palm of your hand. Because honestly, most people are fine with just having a smaller portion of their favorite snack. They don't need to be downing an entire party-sized bag of chips. Number 3, bonus points if your snack is a fruit, veggie, or protein source. And look, I'm not saying that you can't have your favorite snacks like chips, candies, cookies, pretzels, whatever it is that you like, but what I am saying is that you do get bonus points if it's a fruit, veggie, or protein, just because these things are going to be more nutritious, they're going to fill you up more, and it's likely to help you stay within your nutrition targets. And it's also going to help you form a better relationship with food, because you'll find that maybe I don't need this snack and I'm just using it to fill some emotional void or to get a certain mouthfeel or something. And then on to tip number 4 is limiting liquid calories. Now honestly, I think that liquid calories are tied for first place with snacking as things that stop people from losing weight. And the main reason, again, is because liquid calories are for the most part empty calories. This is because they don't really fill you up all that much and they contain a lot of calories for what it is and what it's worth. But a lot of people simply don't realize how much their liquid calories add up until they actually start tracking or start becoming aware of it. And also another thing that is specifically alcohol related, when you are under the influences of alcohol, you don't make the best decisions.
Julian!
And of course, when you are trying to get healthier and to lose weight, you probably want to be in the best decision-making mindset. And again, you don't have to be cutting out liquid calories entirely, but you do have to be aware of them and they do count. Now to point number 5. You know what liquid doesn't have any calories and you should be drinking more of? That's right, water. So tip number 5 is going to be drink 3 bottles of water every single day. And now there's absolutely nothing special about drinking 3 bottles of water a day. If you drink 2 or 4, does not mean your entire body is going to explode. And also drinking 3 bottles of water a day is a good general recommendation for most people, and it also helps people have something to visualize, because if I were to say drink X ounces of water a day or drink your body weight times whatever it is, you'd be like, I have no fucking clue how much that is.
What the fuck does that even mean?
And also drinking a gallon of water a day is unrealistic and excessive for a lot of people, which is why I don't recommend it. You're fine with just drinking whenever you're thirsty. Now on to tip number 6. This is not really nutrition related, but it's still just as important nonetheless. And it's gonna be walking 5 to 10,000 steps a day. You've probably heard this time and time again, and it probably sounds like a broken record by now, but keeping track of your steps is extremely important when it comes to weight loss. Because a lot of the times, the main reason why people plateau when they lose weight is because their NEAT or non-exercise activity thermogenesis goes down. And of course, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis is the amount of calories your body burns when you are doing non-exercise things like fidgeting, walking around, doing daily tasks. So when you are in a calorie deficit, losing weight, your body is going to downregulate its metabolism mainly by reducing NEAT.
Today I don't feel like doing anything.
However, if you keep a step count, that is going to help you regulate your NEAT to an extent. This way it helps you establish a baseline level of NEAT so that your body doesn't downregulate it and you can keep your metabolism at a regular level. Also, you'll hear a lot of people say, you don't need to do any cardio to lose weight at all. And while yes, this is true, you can get into a calorie deficit purely from your nutrition. You should be doing exercise or getting activity just for the sake of improving your health, not really to burn extra calories.
And get up off your ass.
And also, weight loss benefits aside, there's a recent study that was done that keeping a step count of at least 8,000 steps a day was associated with lower all-cause mortality, which means that people who kept a moderate step count actually ended up living longer with less disease. And look, I know that walking doesn't sound like much, but if this didn't work, I wouldn't be telling you this. Walking has worked for every single one of my online coaching clients. And now this doesn't mean that you can't do other forms of cardio, but walking is by far my preferred choice of prescribing cardio. And the bottom line here is that it's extremely simple and easy to get started, and you can use it as a tool to improve your body composition and health. Now on to the final and most important tip of all, staying consistent. And this is by far the most important one, because even if you do all the other tips that I have mentioned before in this video, if you don't have this last tip in place, you're not going to see an ounce of results. And look, I know it might sound cheesy and oversaid, but it really is the biggest predictor of success. And not just in fitness, but in every single other area in life. Because truthfully, you can have the best training plan, you can have the best diet plan, you can have every single one of these factors dialed in, but if you aren't consistent with any of it, you're not going to see any results at all. But on the other hand, if you didn't have such a good training plan, if you didn't have such a good diet plan, but you were consistent with it, you would still see some results because you were consistent with it at least. In fact, my most successful clients all have this one thing in common. They were consistent. They showed up to their workouts, they showed up in dialing in their nutrition, and they saw the results. Which again, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, it is something that is super simple to do. Just be consistent. It's simple to say, it's simple to do, but it is not easy to do. Because there are going to be days where your ability to stay consistent is tested. And you will question yourself if this is worth it to keep going or not. It's going to feel like an uphill battle, but I promise you, if you get through those times, if you stay consistent, you are going to see the results and progress you're finally after. So here are a few more consistency related tips. Number one is going to be stop throwing in the towel just because you messed up or went off track. And this is something I see time and time again. People who go off track, they miss their diet, they miss their workout, and they think it's all over and they should give up and there's no point in continuing.
Fuck this, I'm done.
When in fact, you've literally ruined none of your progress, and if you give up, you're not going to get there any sooner. Just because you went off track doesn't mean you can't get back on track. You are always one decision away from getting right back on track, so don't give up and just continue and pick up where you left off. Number two, the main reason why people struggle with number one is because they expect themselves to be perfect. So stop expecting yourself to be perfect. The only thing that comes from the expectation of being perfect is that you hold yourself to such a high standard that the moment you mess up, you think, I can't be perfect anymore, and so that's why you give up. And know that in order to achieve your goals, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be, like I said, consistent. This way, you're actually building in flexibility and room for error rather than expecting yourself to be perfect, so that when you hit this minimum consistency goal, then you can reap the rewards and also not feel bad about having that room because you're able to work within it. Number three, I have to repeat this again, consistency over perfection. Rather than setting a perfection goal of I need to be perfect throughout this entire week or entire month, set a consistency goal of 80 to 90%. That way you give yourself that 10 to 20% room for being flexible and going off track or going off plan, so that eventually when you go off track and you're not perfect, which eventually you're not going to be perfect because none of us can be perfect, you have this built-in room that you're like, okay, cool, I got to use this 10 to 20% to go off track, and now I can just get right back on track. So instead of pressuring yourself that I have to be perfect for this many amount of days or weeks, you can now think I can be imperfect for this many amount of days or weeks and I can still make progress. Simple little mindset switch, but it makes a huge difference. All right, that about wraps it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And as a final message, I do want to say that again, weight loss is simple, but it is not easy. It is definitely a very difficult and hard thing to do. And even if you applied every single thing I've said in this video, you are going to have days where your patience and your consistency is tested. But ultimately, it's going to be up to you to keep telling yourself to keep going and that your goals are worth it and that you are going to be able to achieve this. Because truthfully, you owe it to yourself to see your goals through. You need to be the one to tell yourself that enough is enough. You need to tell yourself that you will not give up this time and just try again next year. And this is going to be the last time you try this because this is the time that you're actually going to be successful. But that about wraps it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I will catch you in the next one.